Good morning. KJ7T is in the booth. Today's podcast, Random Wire Reflections, covers the Random Wire Review Issue 104 coming out on Friday, August 23rd. Today's topics include a Restomod AllStarlink audio interface project, how to know what you just upgraded on your AllStarlink node, a used Heltec Scout 555 that needs some cleaning, and a bunch of miscellaneous musings about ham radio. So let's get started with the first topic. Number 1, the AllStarlink Restomod of a PC-1A phone patch controller. It's time for me to start thinking about how to wire the bits and pieces together in my conversion of a Kenwood PC-1A phone patch controller to serve as an AllStarlink radioless node audio interface. What follows is my thinking so far. I do not claim that my understanding is either accurate or complete. The process I'm following is educating me on circuit design and wiring basics. Your questions and your suggestions will not only be welcome, they will help me learn. I'm leaning on several resources to help me through this, including a couple of great documents from Master Communications, the maker of the RL20 audio board that I'm using in this build. So let me start there. There are 4 places on the Master Communications RL20 board for connections. Power will come in via the USB port from the device running AllStarlink 3. For the audio amplifier that will power the speaker/earphone jack, the audio out, there are a couple of special solder points on the board for audio amp. For sending 5 volts DC to a DTMF microphone, there are 2 other special solder points on the board. At one end of the RL20 board is a DB9 solder pad. Pin 2 is audio out, i.e. the left channel, so that will feed a 5 kiloohm potentiometer before the signal goes through a PAM 3806 audio amplifier. Pin 3 is connected to the 8-pin mic connectors Pin 2 and carries the push-to-talk, or PTT, COS. What is COS? COS means carrier-operated switch and is synonymous with COR, or carrier-operated relay. Says the AllStarlink wiki, the purpose of the COR signal is to change state when there is a signal being received by the receiver. Pin 6 is for audio input, but I'll want to be able to change the audio input before it reaches the RL20 board. And for that, I'll run the audio through a 5K potentiometer and a MAX 9814 audio amplifier before sending the signal on to RL20 pin 6. The MAX 9814 with onboard automatic gain control will also serve as an audio conditioner. For microphone connections, I'm using the 8-pin round connector on the Kenwood PC-1A panel. That should work with my Kenwood MC60A and my Alinco EMS57 microphones. On the 8-pin round connector, pins 1 through 8 are used like this. Pin 1 is the microphone to a 5 kiloohm potentiometer for controlling mic gain. Pin 2 is the PTT COS, carrier-operated switch, that connects to the RL20 pin 3. Kevin at Master Communications knew I was going to use the RL20 for a radioless node build, so he reversed LED 1 and LED 3 so that PTT will activate the red LED in the LED 3 position. Pin 5 sends audio to the MAX 9814 board. Pin 8 is ground, and that's as far as I got this week. There's much more that needs to be done, and then I need to diagram the wiring before I start cutting wire and heating up the soldering iron. Topic number 2 is also about AllStarlink, how to know what you just upgraded. My AllStarlink node 588411 runs in a VirtualBox virtual machine on my home network. Node 588411 is based on ASL3 in a Debian 12 machine. By the way, while I work on this, I'm listening to node 2462, the Puget Sound repeater group, on my node 588417, which is a Sherry-based AllStarlink node, and a Retevis Handy Talkie. Whenever another node connects, 588417 announces it privately to me. I see I need to change the configuration to fix that because That's rather off-putting when several people are checking in. Updating and upgrading follow the usual two-step apt dance, as in sudo apt update, followed by sudo apt upgrade. To find what is upgradable, and I always synchronize my repositories first by issuing the sudo apt update command, you would issue this command in the terminal: sudo apt list -- upgradable. But what if you want to see what packages were upgraded after you run sudo apt upgrade? If you haven't logged out of your session, just tail the log file. In the terminal, cd/var/log/apt, and then issue tail, T-A-I-L, space term.log, term.log. That will show you the packages you just upgraded. What if you want to make a record of it? Then pipe the tail log to a text file. What I issued was tail space term.log, and then a right angle bracket pointing toward a new file name, upgraded.txt, upgraded.txt. If you want to send that text file to another machine, I use tailscale. For example, sending upgraded.txt from 588.411 to my local machine named Tom B looks like this: tailscale space file space cp for copy space upgraded.txt space Tom B, and ends with a colon. All of these commands are shown in issue 104. Now, what if you want to find out what was upgraded and you've already logged out of the machine? No problem. Log back in and issue a complicated string in the terminal that uses zcat and grep. Zcat will look in the compressed history log, and grep will search for the word install. The output of the two commands looks a bit different, but you'll be able to glean the pertinent information without any trouble. You know, as long as you're in the terminal, you might want to confirm what release of Debian you are running. Here are 4 different commands that will give you important information about your system: cat/etc/os-release, or lsb_release-a, or host name control, HOST-NAME-CTL, all one word, or uname, UNAME space -R. And while we're at it, what version of Asterisk are you running? The easiest way is through the AllStarlink main menu. In the terminal, enter ASL-MENU. In AllStarlink 3.0.4, the third and fourth menu choices are good places to start. Simplest is menu option 4, show system version numbers. You can also enter option 3, enter the asterisk CLI. Once in the CLI window, enter core space show space version. You can also select option 5, diagnostics menu, and then option 3, show asterisk version. This method gives you the same information as using the asterisk CLI. Topic number 3 is about a Heltec Scout 555 I just received. As I mentioned last week, buying used radio equipment on eBay is a gamble. I received a Heltec Scout 555 HF radio this week, and it is in slightly worse condition than I expected, but overall not as bad as it could be. Last week I said the front and rear panels appeared to be, quote, relatively pristine, unquote. For a radio that was manufactured circa 1993, about 30 years ago, I expected some wear, and this radio certainly does have some wear. There are several pictures included in issue 104 that illustrate what I mean. The radio was packed well and securely boxed. As is common with some microphones of this vintage, the cord sheath is cracked in a few places. The front panel looks about as I expected, and the back panel is clean enough. The top of the case is a bit, filthy, but that is easily cleaned. The dirt, though, caused me to crack open the case to see if the interior components were similarly dirty. In some of the photos, you can see the wear on the bottom of the case. On the front panel, you can see dirt in crevices, and the once white plastic indicators have yellowed with age. This level of grime is not unexpected. The interior photos, fortunately, show less dirt than I expected. I'll use compressed air to clean out the small amount of dust that is accumulated inside the case. I'm out of time this week to raise an antenna and power up the Scout 555, but that will happen soon enough. Topic 4 is a collection of musings. I renewed my QRZ premium subscription this week. I'm hoping to get more time on HF in the next 12 months. Hope is not a plan, though, so let me restate this in a more positive way. I plan to get on HF more over the next 12 months. All paid QRZ subscribers receive, quote, unlimited daily call sign lookups, plus enables our web contact log, which lets visitors to your page leave simple messages that let you know they were there and to give their wishes, congratulations, etc., end quote. I also appreciate having direct access to QRZ's XML data port, which is available to, quote, popular logging programs like Ham Radio Deluxe, Amateur Contact Log, WinEQF, Logic 7, and ProLog 2K, just to name a few, end quote. Next up, I should have been writing. I ran across a trove of great old music CDs at a local Goodwill store and brought home a bag of them. Rather than writing on Sunday, I spent part of the day ripping the CDs to my digital music folder. To do this, I'm using a program called FreeAC, which stands for Free Audio Converter. This open source program uses the lame encoder to convert the music files on the CD to MP3 files on my computer. The interface is a bit dated, but after using it once, it feels like an old friend. The best part, it just works. Next up is about Skywarn operations on network radios. Last year, Lloyd, KC5FM, explained how Skywarn benefits from communications over network radios. You can find his post about this on Blogspot. What Lloyd wrote supports my belief that digital modes have a valuable place in the spectrum of resources that can be applied in emergency situations. Traditionally, we've leaned on RF-based communications first, with other modes occupying second place, if they were considered at all. I wonder, though, is this an artifact of the pre-digital era when RF is all we had? Considering the clarity and speed of digital comms, perhaps digital modes should be the first solution we turn to, with RF serving as the last resort when all else fails. Next is about a Heltec mesh node T114 first look, and I include a YouTube video link about this. From the YouTube summary, quote, so Heltec have updated their popular LoRa32 ESP32 node to this nice little device called the T114 mesh node, with a host of improvements including color TFT screen, low power consumption, and plug-and-play GPS. Join me in this video where we unbox, test, and try Meshtastic firmware on this cool new device, unquote. Update? I purchased one. Shipping was $4.25 via Yanwen, and handling was $2.80, making the total $48.75 for a complete kit. Note, though, if you order through the Heltec site, it wants you to set up an account. When you do, your email address will not work as your username. The error message I received was so unhelpful that it took me several tries before I figured this out. The device is also available through MusicWorks online. Next up, I am snakebit when it comes to rack-based Meshtastic devices. 3 rack-based Meshtastic nodes from 2 vendors, 3 system failures. In other words, every rack-based device I own has failed within 24 hours of startup. I have no idea why. I thought maybe my powerful USB charger at home was cooking the devices, so with the third one, I very intentionally used a low-power USB charger. That didn't solve the problem. Nevertheless, and without any real proof, I lean toward poor voltage regulation as the likely culprit. Looking online, I find that I am not alone in experiencing failed rack devices. I think for now I'd better steer away from rack-based devices. Perhaps the new Heltec T114 will provide the lower power consumption I'm looking for while also being more reliable than the rack-based nodes. Next up, Module 17 developments. I like open source stuff. As noted in previous issues of the Random Wire, I'm sort of following along on Module 17 or M17 developments. The M17 project, quote, is developing open source hardware, software, and offers a complete digital radio protocol for data and voice made by and for amateur radio operators, end quote. I find that a handheld radio for M17 is now commercially available. Connect Systems is selling the CS7000-M17 handy talkie for $299. They are also working on a plus version of this radio that will accommodate additional digital protocols. If you're interested in getting started with M17 on the hardware side, check out the STM32M17 modem board from LilyGo. The cost with a screen is $39.13. It is designed to work with radios that support a 9600 baud data transfer rate. I'm just guessing, but I'll bet this would also work with a PC or Raspberry Pi running a modern sound card emulator like Direwolf or maybe UZ7HO. Of course, as I started to dig around on this topic, I found that Steve Stroh, the editor-in-chief of the Zero Retries newsletter, has been there already. I like the looks of the M17 modem from LilyGo, so much so that I ordered one. The total was $47.13 with standard shipping. This will be very interesting to fiddle with. Next up is a non-radio note about lightsabers. For those interested in lightsaber crafting, an article titled How Fresh Out of College DIYers Built the Star Wars Lightsaber of Your Dreams will prove interesting. These makers have created a lightsaber that actually extends and retracts like you see in the movies. If you're into this sort of thing, this is pretty fascinating news. Next up is a Radza Rock E20C palm-sized computer. I love a tiny computer. Extra points if it's cute. A few days back, Liliputing published an article on the Radza Rock Tiny PC titled, Radza Rock E20C is a tiny 2.6-inch PC with a RK3528A chip and 2 gigabit Ethernet ports for $25 and up. The Rock is definitely a tiny, cute computer. The processor is a quad-core ARM Cortex, and the Rock has a separate GPU. Memory is DDR4, and an eMMC board is used for storage. It has a microSD slot, 2 USB-C ports, one is for power, and a USB-A port. According to Radza, it supports the Debian operating system. From the Liliputing article, quote, you can buy the Radza E20C from ARACE or AliExpress. Prices are a little lower at ARACE, but models with 4 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage are only available from AliExpress. I ordered the 2 GB RAM, 16 GB eMMC configuration for $35 plus $12 shipping. Once it arrives, I'm going to try to load Debian and AllStarlink onto this little thing. Fingers and toes are crossed for luck. And finally, ARRL news on your AllStarlink node. Many of us with AllStarlink nodes know that we can hear the ARRL news over our ASL node, but I'm sure some newer ASL users aren't aware of this. Here's a quote from the entity who provides this service. Quote, AllStar nodes may connect to AllStar node 516229 in monitor mode to hear ARRL audio news. The first node to connect starts the audio news playback. Additional nodes connecting after the first node starts playback may hear only the later part of the audio news. Any node that transmits to 516229 will automatically be disconnected, since muting incoming connections is not provided by AllStar. Connecting in monitor mode will avoid disconnects during playback. End quote. I tested this on Wednesday and it works fine. You can listen to the ARRL news at your convenience by connecting to node 516229 in monitor mode. I've saved 516229 as a favorite in my list of nodes. The last item in this week's podcast is, of course, the closing. You can contact me in various ways. When I'm at my Portland desk, AllStarlink node 588412 is always on. I often have 588411, the one running on a virtual machine and connected to my Cisco desk phone going. I do work full-time managing a statewide nonprofit association, so I may not be able to respond immediately, but I will get back to you. Thank you for subscribing to the Random Wire newsletter. 73 to all. This is KJ7T, and I'm clear.